Welcome y'all to my channel, Hot with Tiffany, where we are humble, open, and transparent. Make sure you like and comment on this video. Don't forget to click subscribe and click that notification bell so you never miss a new video. You can share this video on your Facebook page so your friends can join in on the conversation. Hey y'all, thank you so much for joining us today. I have a special guest with me. It is someone that I went to school with back in the day, Jeron. He is a rap artist, a writer, and a ministry leader. Today, we are going to talk about real life and Christianity. So we're just going to be asking each other some questions about real life and how we live that inside of Christianity. So to go ahead and jump right on in, my first question is, growing up, were you always following Christ?
No. I was definitely interested in God, though, because I had different, experiences with Christian culture. So my mom would go to church sometimes. My dad would go to church sometimes. We had, little, bedtime Bible stories when we were kids and stuff like that. But personally, I was a little intimidated by all that because a lot of it was related to the Old Testament. So I was kind of scared of God. I was like, is this the same? I was reading about, it was like, read this before you go to bed. And I'm sitting on my bed reading about the flood of Noah. And I'm like, hey, this is going to give me nightmares. So I was always afraid of God. And when I was younger, and I was like, man, I want a relationship with God, but I'm like hecka nervous that I'll, not be able to measure up and I won't be able to do this, and that. So I just kept my distance.
How did you kind of ultimately find your way to Christ?
I found myself really desperate for I would say meaning in life. When I was younger, I feel like me and my brother and even a lot of my family, we were in two different lives. Even at Ray South and stuff, when we went to school, I was trying to become, I was trying to be as good as I could be. I was like, okay, how do I get involved in theater? And I was trying to do the right thing. But there would be these moments where my other life was coming through. I remember one time with the director for theater where I came in and I was coughing. And he said, Jeron, have you been smoking? And I was like, maybe. Maybe. And he was just like, what is going on, Drew? I didn't know you were like this. And then it would be stuff like me being removed from school, kicked out of middle school for that big fight. It was little stuff like that was peeking through. And I was carrying bandanas to where I was trying to live this double life. And I was, on one side, I was experiencing a lot of gun violence and a lot of, just a lot of street culture. And it just came to a halt after graduation.
Yeah.
Where our big cousin was brutally murdered, and he was like a brother to us, and it made me ask some big questions that nobody had answers to. I started asking questions about death. I started asking questions about just life, why we do the things we do, and it eventually led me to connecting with somebody. I was talking to somebody. They was like, "Hey, have you ever read the New Testament?" And I was just like, "No." I don't know anything about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then, and they were just like, it was actually a pastor who was a former pimp. Wow. And I didn't think that was possible. So I was like, what kind of Christian? Because I was trying to connect with this girl on Black Planet. If anybody remembers Black Planet, I was connecting with this girl on Black Planet, and she invited me to church. And I was like, I ain't no punk. Sure, I'll go to church. And I came with bandanas on and Chuck Taylors, and I was trying to be cool. And I think this pastor saw me and was just like, yo, man, he and that's when he gave me that question. I was just like, oh, no, I never. So I went home, started reading the New Testament, and he said, if you want a second chance at life, read the New Testament. Wow. I went home, started reading the New Testament, and it blew my mind. Because I was sitting there thinking yo, this seems real. This Jesus, because I thought Jesus was fake. I thought he was a fictional character. So when I was reading it, I'm like, yo, this seems real. This seems like this really happened. And he just kept offering forgiveness and peace with God. And I was so ashamed of things that I had done and looking for hope so bad, where I was just like, yo, I really want that. So I started praying. You know what I'm saying? And I started talking to God. And one day my mama caught me and she was just like, yo, something's happening to you. And I was just like, what's going on? And she was like, I think you got saved.
Wow.
And I was like, what is that? You know what I mean? So, and the rest is history. That's how it went down. And that was at 18. So shortly after Raytown South graduation.
Wow.
Yep.
I took a little bit longer than that. So me, growing up, not really following Christ. I mean, I had some exposure to God and faith, but not a lot. Like, I remember having a children's Bible, and I remember like my mom reading the children's Bible with me, like at bedtime, just like you said, with all the pictures, and like it just don't seem real. And I also remember going to Sunday school, but that was like, so my mom and my dad have been divorced since I was like 1. My dad remarried, and so like on weekends I go to my dad's house, and my stepmom's mom went to church. And so like while my dad didn't go to church and like had every excuse on not going to church, my stepmom like drugged me and my half sister like to church with her and her mom. And I remember going to Sunday school and sitting next to her like in the sanctuary, and like it was just all like really boring. I didn't really get anything that they were talking about. I mean, you just remember like the main stories, right? Like Adam and Eve and Noah and the ark and like Easter, like all the main stuff. And I remember there was a point like my sophomore year in high school where one of my friends from the neighborhood who rode my bus, like she took me to her church. And I even went to like a church camp, like a weekend like church camp thing, which was actually like kind of fun, but I also got in trouble because me and my friend, like we would stay up late and we would be talking to the other girls, and see me and my friend, like we're bad, like we like be doing drugs and all types of stuff, and we telling all the other girls like our bad stuff. And like some of the adults overheard our conversation and told like our youth pastor. And then when we like got back, we had a whole talking to. It was it was crazy. Needless to say, I did leave that church because it wasn't like, I didn't fit in there. It wasn't like my group of people. And then after that, it was like nothing until like I moved out here. It was 2013. Like my boyfriend at the time like wrecked my car. Like it was like this whole situation, and I was down and out. And my auntie, who isn't even a Christian, she's a Wiccan, used to work with a pastor who has his own church, and she was telling me about him and his church, and she encouraged me to go to that church. So I went to that church for like a couple months in 2013 and really helped me kind of get through some stuff. And then like I fell off again for years until I started wanting to know God. It all started with June of 2016. Like I decided to be celibate. Like having sex like wasn't enjoyable anymore, and I was just like really getting mad over it, and I was like, I can't do this. So it started with that. And then after a while, it was like, I want a relationship with God. Like I desired a relationship with him. So I started reading the Bible, and I tried to do it on my own, thinking like, I don't need a church to like have a relationship with God. I can do that on my own. And then what's so funny is in December of 2017, I got offered a manager position at my job. And it was like the Holy Spirit like just slapped me in the face and was like, you cannot do this on your own. It was then that I realized like I need to find a church. I need to be surrounded by people who have the same values as me and can help guide me and direct me into the right path and like help keep me there. So I was talking to my mentor at the time about it, and she invited me to her church. And I went to that church for a little over a year. At this point, I still haven't like read the entire Bible. So the pastor of that church was talking about this chronological Bible and how awesome it was. And so I bought it because that's how my brain works. Like I couldn't read the Bible because it didn't make sense to me. I kept trying to make it make sense, and like reading it book by book just doesn't make sense to me. So when he said chronological Bible, I was like, oh, yes, that's how my brain works. So I bought it, and it's also divided into daily devotionals, so you can read the entire Bible in a year.
Mm-hmm.
So I started doing that, but I was falling off a lot. Like I was not consistent. It was in April, and it's so funny because I already reviewed like all my journals to make the series that I just started filming.
Uh-huh.
And in my journal, because like I read the daily devotional, I take notes, and then I journal about what I read. And in my journal, I was like, I feel like I'm not getting the connection to God that I need, and I'm not maintaining my consistency of reading the Bible. I'm going to go on a fast. I'm not going to watch TV. I'm not going to watch Netflix. And like through this entire time, I had still been smoking weed the whole time. I was like, I'm going to stop smoking weed. I wanted to I wanted to devote all of my time to God, make sure I read the Bible every single day, and pretty much eliminate any distraction that could take me away from Him. So, and I decided to go biblical, and I did it for 40 days and 40 nights. So I made it through the fast, and during that fast, God was so, like, He was speaking to me in ways that I've never experienced before, and it was crazy. And one thing that He said was, your time at that church is over. You need to leave. And for weeks, I'm like, are you sure, God? Like, when do I need to leave? And then where do I go? And it was like, and then one day in the shower, like, God was just like, enough is enough. Stop stalling. Leave. So I emailed the lead pastor and his wife and told them my process I was going through and that it was time for me to leave. And I didn't know where I was going to go, but it was so funny how God led me to the church that I'm at now. So one of the highways was closed because of all this construction. And so instead of taking this one road all the way to my old church, maps told me to take a different road. I figured it was quicker. So I took that road. Meanwhile, I have been very intentional this entire time because I knew God told me that my time at that church was over and I didn't know where I was supposed to go after that. But anytime I drive to work, from work, anytime I'm driving, I'm paying attention to churches that I pass by, trying, like, waiting for a sign from God. I'm driving to my old church, and on this particular road, there's churches everywhere. I'm passing all these different churches. And this one church stood out because of its name. And I'm so funny this way, but the name of the church, and this is where I go now, is called Covenant City Church. And the name stood out to me because I was still in my fast. And I'm like, okay, I'm in a covenant with God now.
Yeah.
So it stuck out to me. And then when I looked up the church online and I watched a couple videos from the lead pastor, I just felt like an instant connection with him. And that's how, like, God led me to this church. And I've been at this church for over a year. I've been a member over a year. Like, I'm definitely involved in this church now. And so, like, my life has definitely completely shifted, I would say, since 2018. But even then, like, since, I would say, like, last year, and I quit. Like, after that fast, I realized, like, I don't need to smoke no more. Like, this is not where it's at. Like, it keeps me distant from God. I don't have clarity like I need it. Spirit doesn't connect with me like I need it to connect with me. And I quit. And so I'm done. And I was going to bargain with myself like, well, maybe only on my birthday. And I'm like, no, I'm not even going to do that no more. So I know that you were always into making music, like, throughout high school. Did you always make Christian music?
No. No. Like, people be quoting my old lyrics, and I don't remember any of them. And somebody quoted, I was like, oh my goodness. I was like, did I say that really? I have a feeling that if I become, the more and more that I achieve, the more and more people will find old music. Because I did somebody brought to me a remix of the R. Kelly song "Trapped in a Closet," and they were just like, "You man," I was like, "Oh, I didn't even remember I did that song." So I don't know what's out there, but yeah, no, I didn't.
How did you transition?
So rap for me was almost like a second language in a way. Because I had, a lot of people don't know this, but I've been writing music since I was like 8 years old. And I started writing songs because I was so fascinated with, like, Motown and Michael Jackson and Stevie Wonder and all these people that my mom and my family was introducing me to, James Brown and just all these different people. So I tried to write songs like them when I was a kid. But I got to a certain age, I was dealing with so much emotional issues and anger and stuff that music just didn't cut it. You know what I mean? And I was like, so I started writing poetry. Like, and this is still This is still in like elementary school. And then my cousins, I found one of my cousins' notebooks. And these were some tough dudes, you know what I'm saying? Like hood dudes. We're in Hilltop projects at the time. And I find one of their notebooks, and this is in Kansas City, and it's full of these writings. And I'm seeing big words and all these stories. And I'm like, and he caught me like, what you doing? And I'm like, bro, what is this? Are you like a philosopher or a teacher? Like, what is this in this book? He's like, oh man, I write raps. And I'm like, yo, this is interesting. So eventually they brought a beat out and they just was like freestyling and they told me to freestyle. And this was when I was, man, I don't even know. It was before middle school, but I started freestyling and they just like stopped and just looked at me and was just like, yo, we think you're talented. Because what I was doing is I was singing still, but I was trying to rap. So it was almost like Nelly. And they were just like, yo, we think you can actually rap. And since then, they started like paying for me to go to the studio. They was trying to tell me like, don't do this, don't sell crack, don't do this. Like they were trying to protect me from everything that was going on. And they were just like, focus on rap. And I used to be in like math class and everywhere I was at, I was just writing rap. So it became like a journal and just how it was the language I spoke. So when I got saved and when I started walking with the Lord, in my mind, it wasn't like become a Christian rapper. It was more just like my journaling is different now. You know what I'm saying? It was like my thoughts are changing. My everything, like how I'm processing life is changing. But then I started noticing that I was arrogant. He invited me to be on one of his songs, and I was on that mug going crazy. Like, I mean, like, it was lyrically very impressive. It was just like, yo, this is fine. I still got it to this day. But I was also just like, why am I so arrogant? Because I had experience with battle rap when we was in middle school and high school. So I'm like trying to battle rap for Jesus and trying to like, I was like, I mean, I'm telling you, I made a song called Demons Beware. Like, I was like trying to rap to demons and I was going crazy. You know what I'm saying? And then all of a sudden I just felt like the Lord just telling me like, you know, lay it down. Like don't rap right now. And I thought I would never rap again. And I was like, all right, cool. You know, and I stopped for like probably like 6 months to a year. But all of a sudden I was just chilling and I felt something that said, you won't be as arrogant if you rap to me.
Wow.
And then I started making worship rap. And I started basically making all these songs to God. And I noticed I wasn't trying to buck up to God, of course, because I'm just like, I'm just God, you know what I'm saying? And that's how it changed. And eventually I started opening up my raps and opening up my music to talk to people. But I wasn't doing it like I was doing it before. And that's how I transitioned. I performed in churches, I performed in clubs, I performed high schools, I performed at Christian high schools, I performed. So I'm very in the middle of all of this because on one side, the church is very like they're trying to accept street culture and they're trying to understand. And they're just like, okay, I recently released a worship album. And it's a street worship album. And in that album, I'm talking about gun violence. I'm talking about, but this is the thing, it's a worship album. So I'm like literally praying to the Lord about protect me and my family from gunshots. Even though it's a worship album, the church is like, you know what I'm saying? Like, this is a different type of worship. You know what I'm saying? So I'm in the middle to where it's like people in the clubs are like, you made a party song, but it's very different because it seems like it's respectful to women, it's respectful to what's going on, but it's still aggressive and it's still street and it's still, but at the same time, the church is like, you're making worship music and you're making godly music, but it has a very strong edge to it. So that's how the transition was. I'm still in the middle of all those worlds. And I like it. Sometimes it gets frustrating, but I like being in the middle of all of it because the music represents the people. You know, like the music is in the middle of all these cultures, but the people like us are also in the middle of all these cultures where we're half street, half this, half that.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so speaking of that, since we've known Tiffany, the nails have been done.
Right
the
now,
hair has been done.
You know.
The braids. It's like signature Tiffany. So it's like That's a question I have for you. Like, how has that happened for you as far as like merging your Christian faith with your culture, with the personal culture and how you express yourself?
So let's just be real, right? When I was younger, when I was in like senior year high school, I was a little hoochie mama. I was wearing them little short shorts, little mini skirts. Like if I bent over, you would stand it off. And what's so funny is like when I first moved out here, like of course I'm gonna bring that with me because that's who I became. My first best friend out here, I remember she made a comment to me. She was like, I was wearing my little short shorts, and she was like, I can see your. And I'm like,
wow.
So? I was like, so? Because, like, these are shorts that I brought with me from Kansas City. It was like the way she said it. And she was my friend, though. But the way she said it, it struck a chord with me where it started making me think, like, I need new clothes. So, like, I went shopping and bought, like, back then, it was when Bermuda shorts first came out. And y'all females know exactly what I'm talking about. And so I went to go get me like a couple pairs of them shorts and like literally threw away the rest of my shorts just because like she just made that comment to me. And I guess I never had anybody call me out and like really make me think about how I'm showing people me and who I am. And then what's so funny is like just as I get older, especially like in my Christianity, I'm becoming more and more modest. Like if I'm buying a skirt or a dress now, it has to hit at my knees. I can't wear nothing above my knees. And if it comes above my knees, I'm wearing leggings underneath it. I just don't even feel comfortable in that anymore. Like I can't show a lot of cleavage. And if I feel like my shirt is showing too much, I wear an undershirt and I'm pulling that undershirt up. Like, and this was even before I like read the entire Bible for myself. But as far as like my personal style, it's still, I mean, honestly, I'm still trying to figure out what my style is. I don't even know what it is. I just know that I'm becoming more modest in that. But at the same time, like, you don't have to like be a prude about how you represent yourself. Like I still have my personality. Like you can still wear your hair however you want to, whatever makes you feel good. Because at the end of the day, like I don't get my hair done a certain way or get my nails done a certain way to impress anyone or to make anybody else feel comfortable. I do it because of who I am. And quite honestly, like I went moving out here, I have not had my hair braided as often as I have within the last year since before I moved out here. Because there's just not a lot of black hair shops out here. And the one time I had my hair done, this was in 2008, they charged me over $100. Back home, I went to the shop, paid $35 with tip, got braids with beads and all. And so I was like, oh, y'all tripping out here. So out here, you got to find somebody you know to do your hair. You don't go to a shop. And it took me a long time, especially like in my last job where I was in a corporate environment for the very first time. And because of naturally who I am, I don't fit inside of the corporate box. Like everyone imposes their idea of who they think I should be on me. Because I'm white, I'm supposed to talk a certain way. I'm supposed to have certain mannerisms, and I don't fit that. And the only reason I could say is I grew up with black people. I don't know why I am the way I am, but I've been this way since I came out my mama's womb. I don't know. All I know is I've always had my hair braided. Like you can ask anybody I grew up with, too. I learned how to braid in kindergarten. And when I learned how to braid, I started braiding my own hair into singles. And I was this little white girl in kindergarten coming to school with singles. I didn't know no better. That was just me and who I am innately. And, you know, being shoved into like this corporate box and I was trying to fit that part. And I was very uncomfortable for a very long time. It created a lot of frustration and anger inside of me because it wasn't me. I finally was like, I can't do this anymore. Like I need to be me and I need to be me unapologetically. And so I gradually worked them in where I got my natural hair braided up into a bun, trying to keep it professional. And I like slowly worked my way into my personality where now I got all the colors in my hair. I got all the in my hair. Like I've always had my nails done, and my nails have always been laced.
True.
And it's a part of who I am, and I think you can be who you are, and you can be creative with it, and still fit into that Christian lifestyle. You just have to figure out who that is, and then being okay with it, because before anyone else can accept you, you have to accept you. So how involved are you in your church?
I'm still trying to figure that out because as a ministry leader, it's tricky because on one side, I do ministry in a lot of churches, but on the other side, it's almost like your ministry is not the same thing as your personal life and your community. You know what I mean? And so for us, my wife and I, we've been really trying to understand what it means to have a circle of believers around. And this has been like for the past 5 years, because the first 5 to 7 years of my Christian life, it was in a church, in different churches, and it, like just dedicating my time and serving. But then I think people, and this will happen with you, Tiff, I'm sure, but people started noticing that I had something to offer as a young Christian, and they began to empower me and give me opportunities to lead. Within that, I noticed I was in several communities, and I had so many people that I assumed were close friends. But it was like when the ministry stopped, many of the friendships stopped.
Wow.
And that became tough for me. So we had to actually tell ourselves, like, okay, we really have to understand that church and biblical community, they kind of go back and forth. You have to understand that it's okay to go to church. It's okay to be involved in a traditional church, but it's really important to have people in your circle personally, mentors personally, who can be there for you Monday through Saturday. You know what I mean? Even if you're not at the church. So for us, we attend different churches with like one of my best friends here planted a church, and we attend that church occasionally. In the last year though, because of the pandemic and because of our life, we definitely like slowed down because we got twins. We got twin daughters, and they're one, and to be honest, and we got an older toddler daughter, and they was going crazy in church. So we was like, look, we're gonna start attending from home. You know what I'm saying? Because they going crazy right now. But so on one side we had to scale back because of that, but also because of the pandemic. And but we have some really great friends that really inspire us when it comes to our faith, and we have a community outside of church, even though the church side of it is kind of iffy. And we were a part of churches that they disbanded, or they stopped functioning and they chose to close. And again, when that happened, we were definitely like, okay, we gotta find our community outside of the church, so that when the church stops, we still can survive having people around us, like you said, that can hold us up. So advice I have for new believers would definitely be, as soon as you can, connect with believers you know personally. Because it's almost like getting a new job, like dating, like anytime you're trying to move in a direction, you usually have to depend on your recommendations and who you know. Yeah. When I first became a Christian, one of my cousins named Cleon was a Christian. I called him immediately. It ended up being very pivotal for my walk because my mama was engaged and she ended up moving to Virginia. Wow. And Cleon just happened to have an extra room and offered me a place to stay. He was a believer. And if the Holy Spirit hadn't have put in my mind, hey, connect with believers immediately, I really think I would have been out there, like as a new believer, because I was being offered places to stay by people that didn't necessarily have the values I had. And I think it would have been crazy. Like, because people were selling drugs in front of me still. People were doing crazy stuff in front of me still, even though I was a believer.
Oh, they don't stop.
Exactly. They looked, and in fact, they thought everything I was going through was a joke. Like, they were just like, man, it's all right. You'll be back. Right. You know what I'm saying? They try to pass me weed. I'm like, bro, I'm chilling right now. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not, right, I'm changed. Like, something's happening to me. You know what I'm saying? But they didn't believe it. And I was being offered to places to stay. But because I connected with the Christians I knew, it immediately opened doors to growth and more experience in Christian faith. That's probably my biggest advice, is to connect with Christians you know and use those relationships to build friendships and to build community from there and to find your community. You know what I mean? Because some of your friends who are Christians maybe attending churches that you can get introduced to and have a wide range of choices. And I would also recommend the same for dating. I would also recommend the same for if you're looking for jobs, if you're looking for anything. Like, I would say, connect with the Christians you know, and they might be able to give you some connections that the Lord, you know, might open some doors for. Because many of us, we've come across Christians in our lifetime that we've just like, we've never got a chance to have good conversations with them and stuff like that because we weren't Christians at the time. You know what I'm saying? And we just didn't really mesh. But now it's like, now that you're a Christian, you can really call those people and be like, hey, tell me about your faith. Or like, tell me, you know, help me. God, like, help me to grow in this. You know what I'm saying?
For me, I'm involved in my church as much as I can be. When I first got to the church I'm at now, I just made it a point to where, like, whenever they had some sort of meeting that I fit into, I go to the meetings because I'm going to a church where I literally don't know anybody. Because the Lord guided me to this church, and I don't know a single soul at this church. I'm going by myself. I don't have anybody coming with me. So it started off with singles group. They started to have like events that were being announced, and it started off with me signing up to go kayaking. I've never been kayaking before. I would have never thought to go kayaking. I had the best time of my life connecting with like 6 other women, and I was actually good at it. Like, to my surprise. So it started with that, and then like women's meetings started coming about. So I would like sign up to go to the women's meeting. And then like the leader of my singles group, she just kind of pulled me in, and like, so I'm like, I help her with whatever she needs help with. What was so funny is in December, our church was having like this little fair of like all the different areas, trying to get people to volunteer for all the different areas. Well, I was helping my singles leader with her booth, trying to like get singles to sign up. But the funny thing is, I don't know why she chose me to help, because I don't know anybody. And when I don't know anybody, I'm really shy. People who know me would never believe that I'm shy, but I'm shy. So I'm just standing there like not talking to anybody because I don't know what to do. I don't know what to say. I don't know anyone. And the booth right across from us was the audio video team. The leader of the audio video team was standing there talking to the guys at the booth. He turns around, pulls me over, and like they're all trying to convince me to join the AV team. What got me, I wasn't trying to do it, but what got me is one of the boys was like, you get to sit in the back. I'm like, oh, in the back? I'm down. So I signed up. So in January, I started working on the audio video team, and my job is I'm the one who runs Pro Presenter. So like all the lyrics you see on the screen, all the stuff that gets put on the TVs, like that's me. I've never worked Pro Presenter before. Like I don't know anything about audio video. I guess I'm just following the Lord again.
Right.
And like, you know, I met some really good people. Like I'm actually good at this stuff. I've helped with live streams. I'm going to start to learn more about audio. And then like the people that are on the audio video team also do like the media team. And they like low key just said, and you're going to be on the media team too. We also have like events at the church where we sell like 70 pounds of food for $12. I'll volunteer and help out for that because they always need volunteers for that. So like basically like wherever they need help, like I'm just there to help wherever they need it. What advice would I give for someone new in Christ to finally get involved in church? I agree with everything you said. I think it's really important that you build a strong group of supporters around you to help guide you. How I found my church was God. I don't know how many people have a story like that. Usually it's people you know. Usually it's a story like the one where my auntie told me, oh, hey, I used to work with this pastor who has his own church. Go there.
Right.
It's who you know, right? But sometimes it's just, you know, go into a fast and pray to God and ask for guidance, and the Holy Spirit will lead you. But whenever you find a church, like you need to get involved immediately, whether it's just showing up to group things that happen. If you're a man, go to all the men's group meetings, get involved in a ministry. If you like kids or have kids, volunteer to help in the children's ministry, or like a lot of churches have prison ministries. Like if that's something that's on your heart, like just get involved, or even just ask someone who's involved in the church, like, where do you guys need the most help? Like, where are you lacking the most, and help them there. Because a lot of people do that. And let me tell you, like, the leaders, it's so crazy, just the appreciation I get from the leaders at the church, where all I do is help. It's crazy because people don't do that. People don't volunteer. Like, churches need, a lot of churches fall because they don't have the help they need to get through a service, or to watch kids through service, or like whatever it is. And that's how you're going to meet new people. Like, even if you went to church with one person, the more involved you get, the more people you meet, the more connections you meet. And then you start to meet outside of church. And then that's where like true relationships start to build. And it's those relationships that's going to help you just continue to get closer to Christ, and keep you on that walk, because you really need accountability partners to help check you and keep you right. Because, the enemy is going to come and sin is going to be knocking at your door, but are you going to answer it?
Facts.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you so much, Jeron. This was a great conversation. Don't forget to make sure you like and comment on this video. Make sure you click subscribe and click that notification bell so you never miss a new video. And in case you didn't know, we do have a Facebook page. Make sure you go and like that Facebook page at Hot with Tiffany. You can join in on the daily conversation, get some daily inspiration. Thank you so much.